Hi, I'm Mike, owner of the Groove in Phoenix, Arizona. Today I'm going to do my list of the top 10 analog releases of 2024. These are my favorite releases that have actually come out in the past year that are all analog, of course. There's a lot of great stuff that comes out that's not analog, but this list is going to focus on my favorite analog releases of 2024. And I'm going to start, and these are in no particular order, by the way. They're just in the order of how they sit on my counter here to show you. But I'm going to start with the release from INXS way back in the beginning of the year of Gets Gilberto. This is their one step. Now, I talk about on the channel how I'm getting away from my love of the 45 RPM box sets, overpriced records, things of that nature. It's just, I don't have the space for it. So many manufacturers are reissuing stuff at 33 RPM that's damn near as good. So my love of them has kind of waned a little bit in the last couple of years, but there's exceptions. And this is one of those exceptions because it's so damn good. When I did the review of this, I did a shootout as well. This was my favorite version of this record ever released. And when something is of this caliber, I make an exception. So it took till 2024, but in 2024, we got the best sounding version of this record of all time. Beautiful cover. INXS did a great job on this. I've showed this in previous videos, but it has a book. Just a great release, great information. It's on VR900, which is the super vinyl compound used by Mobile Fidelity. Music Matters called it SRX. Kraft is using it in their one step. Because Sound Matters is using it. But it's on VR900 compound. And if you want to know more about it, go back and watch that video. But again, number one so far on my list for the top 10 analog records that came out in 2024. Here is another one. So the Gets, best sounding copy in my opinion of that album that's ever come out. Number two is from Analog Productions. That is the Crosby, Stills, and Nash Couch album. Also, in my opinion, the best sounding this record has ever been. And not only that, they did just a spectacular job on it. Again, I'm not a huge fan of 45 RPMs, but when they're so much better and so significantly improved over their precursors, you just have to do it. Cover on this, beautiful textured cover. Look at that. They did a fantastic job on it. Really awesome. Have the sparse code on the back here. Mastered and cut to lacquer from the original master tape. So it's all analog, cut from the original master tape. Mobile Fidelity did this as a one-step. This just smokes the one-step. It is so much better. It's quite amazing how much better it is. I was shocked. I recently, before I did this video, I kind of wanted to freshen up on some of these titles. You know, they're titles that I've liked over the past year, but just to be sure. So I went back and I played the one step of this and I played this and it's just not even close. This is a fantastic release. They really knocked it out of the park on this particular release. The whole Analog Productions Atlantic Series 45 RPMs have been fantastic. There's a little bit of oddities going on within the series because some of the titles are being done by Rhino or they're having standalone releases. For instance, like Bad Company. Analog Productions did a 45 RPM of it, and then Rhino simultaneously issued a 33 of it. But in this circumstance, it's absolutely fantastic. And they're doing a lot of just records that haven't been done to death. Now, this is not that. This is a record that has been done quite a few times. Classic did it. There's audiophile reissues of it. But there's a lot of records in this series that haven't been done to death. So I've been a big fan of the series, even though it's at 45 RPM and it's not my preferred choice. But again, a lot of the titles they've done in this series are so far improved over the next best that it's just a must. One of the surprises of the year is actually this release, the Talking Heads 77 box set. Now, disc one is the only thing in this that is actually all analog. And you can actually get this as a standalone with just the album and the bonus disc. Now, the main album is actually all analog, cut from the original master tape at Sterling. But the box set, in my opinion, is the way to go, especially if you're a Talking Heads fan. even a casual Talking Heads fan. Let me show you what's in the box set. You've got the album. Comes as a gatefold. You've got a bunch of bonus tracks, different mixes, that kind of thing. Disc 1, all analog cut from the master tape. The butter on this is actually the concert. It comes with Live at CBGB's in 1977. Absolutely fantastic early Talking Heads concert, just a stripped down, raw Talking Heads. Double disc, absolutely fantastic. Actually, this is cut at 45 RPM. Absolutely fantastic sound. I'm almost positive this is cut at 45 RPM. Yeah, maybe not. Absolutely fantastic sounding release. The other stuff that comes in this box, I personally don't have a use for, but maybe some people will. You know, it comes with some 7 inches. Kind of in book form. And it actually comes with a really nice book. The book is fantastic. Early photos. Let's see if I can finagle that on camera. They did a great job on it. It's fantastic. Again, you can get the standalone, just the album, if you don't want all the tchotchkes. But the reason I bought the box set is not for any of this other stuff, but was for the live concert. The live concert, awesome. As far as disc 1 blew me away. Now, this album has actually been done recently. Kevin Gray actually cut this maybe about 10 or 12 years ago. I guess it's not too recently now. But Kevin Gray actually cut this, and that was never the best pressing when it came out. I was never thrilled with the sound quality of that. I don't know. He's probably using digital files or whatever was provided to him. You know, not everything Kevin does is an audio file reissue, but this box set or this standalone, even if you get just the 2-disc set, just absolutely wipes the floor with Kevin's cut from, you know, early 2000, maybe 2010, 11, 12, in that range. It's really on par with the original. The original of this album is actually done really well. Sound-wise, it's fantastic. This kind of betters that. It kind of tightens up the bass, and it kind of focuses the upper end, you know, the high-end frequencies, the, you know, David Byrne's kind of trebly sound guitar. You know, he's real big on those, you know, kind of those high-pitched, you know, strummy sounds on the guitar. And it kind of focuses that a little bit more than the original does. But both of this and the original both sound great. I would give the nod, though, to this box set. So when they do box sets like this, you know, you kind of just, oh, another box set. More crap we don't need. You know, like a lot of times that's my thinking. Very seldomly do you get something like this to where you got a killer all analog cut in the box. It ends up being sonically, so far, in my opinion, the best sounding this album has been. And then the bonus stuff is actually fantastic, worthwhile. You know, that concert is fantastic. The Talking Heads have been on a tear lately, actually doing this type of stuff. They did another unreleased concert for Record Store Day. So I'm a big Talking Heads fan. Maybe we're going to start opening up the catalog and getting some more reissues of some of this unreleased type of stuff. Probably my favorite reissue series of 2024, and there's multiple releases on this list from this series, but I'm going to start with one that I don't think got enough, not enough press. That is the Rhino high fidelity pressing of Devo's Freedom of Choice. All analog, cut from the master tape by Kevin Gray. This just slaps. This is absolutely fantastic. It's recorded extremely well. The bass, the keyboards, unbelievably great sounding on this. Highly recommend it. So far, this is, you know, with the Rhino hi-fis, who the hell knows what's going on. So far, this is only available as a 5,000, you know, limited to 5,000 copies. A lot of the stuff that's been limited to 5,000 copies has gotten repressed, some more than once. For instance, the title that I'm about to show you in a minute. But I got the feeling at this point that they're going to keep all of these in print. I know a lot of people are like, hey, what about the Cars self-title? What about television? They're coming. There's just, I have no doubt in my mind that maybe it's not next month, maybe it's next year, but 2026, but there's no doubt in my mind that they're just going to put these back in print like they've done many of the titles so far. We've gotten unnumbered releases. Some have been only available direct from Rhino. Some have been available to brick and mortar independent record stores as start your ear off right titles. For instance, the ZZ Top, they're coming early 2025 as start your ear off right titles. Originally only available from Rhino. They're opening it up. The Black Sabbath came. Miles Davis has come, Grateful Dead came, Cars came. So I have a feeling these are going to be in print, which I'm glad. I really want these to be in print. But if you haven't had a chance, even if you're just a casual fan of Devo, this is an album that's really worth picking up. It's got the big hit, Whip It on it. So, I mean, it's a killer release. It sounds absolutely fantastic. It's all analog, cut from the tape, but I kind of like the pinnacle of recorded to tape. The time where the 80s, kind of the end of the tape era. They still record to tape to this day. But right before digital took off, analog recording really was at its peak. They could really just, all the years past they came to just a point to where they just had the ability to record some amazing sounding records. And that was one of them. Another from the Analog Productions Atlantic 75th Anniversary Series. I showed this when I got it in one of my collection videos. I think it was the videos I do where I add stuff to my collection. That is INXS's Kick. Absolutely fantastic sounding. A title that I really wasn't expecting to be as good as it was. It's a fantastic sounding release. The original, it was okay. There's other versions of this. Abbey Road Half Speed they did was actually one of the better Abbey Road Half Speed. But if you're looking for the all analog cut of it, this sounds fantastic. It's cut at 45 RPM. This is an album where some of the tracks are better than others. It kind of depends on, it's from a track by track basis, but some of the tracks on here are just monumental, and then some of them are just okay. But as a whole, it was a title that I wasn't expecting to be nearly this good and really blew me away. And unlike a lot of albums from the 80s, the 80s was kind of the era where we really started getting great songs, but then the albums kind of were like, there was Purple Rain, there was exceptions, but we got a lot of great tunes on not so great albums. But this was a great album. Almost everything on this is just so fantastic. So many hits, so many great tunes. This is just a great record. So it was a record that kind of blew me away, and that's why I made the top 10 list. Now, this next record was the most controversial review that I gave in 2024. And the shite just came ferociously, and it still does. And that's because in the hi-fi business, you really have to massage everybody's egos, because if they have a preconceived notion that their expensive record is the best, you got to nurture and massage that. And if you don't, the pitchforks come out. But I don't give a shit, because this is the best sounding Black Sabbath self-titled that has ever came out, in my opinion. It absolutely slaps the original Vertigo. It's just not even, there's no competition. And I have it. I did the shootout video. I showed them. I got multiple copies of my Vertigo first pressing. Haven't sold it. Have no plans to sell it. Don't have this to sell you at this point. Don't have any Vertigos to sell you at this point. But it's still the best. It absolutely is fantastic. The original green Warner Brothers pressing beat the original Vertigo. This is not a super high fidelity recording in the sense of, a great 1962 Blue Note Rudy Van Gelder record. It's not that. It never was. It's a rock and, heavy metal rock and roll record. But this is the best I've ever heard it sound. It's absolutely fantastic. Kevin knocked it out of the park with this. Now, this is the 5,000 limited edition pressing. Then they did a 5,000 unnumbered pressing. Then they did a Black Friday version. Or no, it wasn't Black Friday. It was Rocktober. They did a Rocktober pressing. So I don't know how many of these things are out there. Probably close to 15,000. I'm guessing maybe they did 3 runs of 5,000. They're all sold out everywhere. They'd be crazy not to put it back in print. But this was a record that just was mind-boggling good. And I didn't have a ton of expectation for it because it was, again, never that great of a recording to begin with. But Kevin just did an absolute fantastic job with this. Now, in 2024, the analog, and it was advertised as analog, and everybody, myself included, we all expected atrocious, horrible things of this release. Nobody expected this to be even remotely good because A, the source, and B, the recordings were never that good to begin with. The Beatles, 1964 US albums in mono. The mastering engineer on this is notorious for doing less than stellar cuts. The tapes that have been futzed with and doctored from the original, not that good. The running orders being chopped up and butchered. I mean, there was just so many things going against this box set. Here's the individual albums. And this goes for the individual albums as well. It's the same thing in the box set, except you get the Beatles story, which nobody's ever going to listen to because, it's an album of sales material. It's essentially a Beatles sales pitch from this 1964. But if you want everything, you got to get the box set. But all the individual albums fit the bill just as much as the box set. But again, nobody was anticipating anything out of this. We had no expectations. If anything, we expected bad things. Everybody was, oh, this is awful. Why would they do this? Why not do this? Why not get a recut of the analog box set? The mono box, 2014 mono box. Why not do an analog stereo box? Why not do the albums of the American releases that people actually care about? The later stuff. I have hope that that's going to come. How would a Record Store Day 2025 Butcher be, or 2026? Maybe they do volume 2 and they do a Butcher for Record Store Day. There's some cool things I'm sure that are going to come. But this box was fantastic. They're cut, it's clean. The records are cut hot. The records, despite being dirty and dusty, cleaned up really nice. The sonics were great on them. I did a standalone review on this, but in general, I was blown away. So I included this on my list because A, it's the Beatles. So when the Beatles do something good, you really need to put that into focus. But it's an all analog release by the most influential band of all time. And they did a really good job on this, and it wasn't expected. We expected nothing, and we got a really good sounding, solid box set. So for that reason alone, it had to go on this list. It was absolutely a fantastic release, and I've listened to it quite a bit since. They're just records that sound absolutely fantastic. Textbook Tenor. This is a Blue Note tone poet. This originally was recorded in 1968, and this is part of the, a lot of tone poets are reissues of classic Blue Note releases, but a lot of them have actually been unreleased stuff. Now, this technically was released in 76 as Back from the Gig, one of those doubles, but it was a title that I actually ignored because a lot of those like crummy budget doubles in my brain, I've just kind of discounted them as just budget releases, but a lot of them actually had a lot of great material on it, and I've gotten to the point now where I'm trying to go back and kind of revisit some of that stuff. But that session was actually broken out from that double and released as Textbook Tenor, Booker Irving. This is an absolutely just smoking session. Fantastic. And for me, the reason it's on this list is because the tone poet itself kind of brought this record into the forefront from me. Because the thing is with the tone poet stuff is they're not doing any bad ones. They're really just all fantastic. And a lot of them are just releases that I've had on my shelf, I had in my collection. But every now and then they'll do something, a World Pacific title, or they'll do one of these unreleased records. And it just smacks me in the face as fantastic because it's something that wasn't on my radar and it's something that was new, technically, but not really, because you could have got it in 76. But an absolutely fantastic release. Woody Shaw, Kenny Barron, Billy Higgins is on this, but just a great session. Just a lot of great blowing on this record. Fantastic. Okay, at the beginning of the year, I actually meant to do a standalone video on this because it blew me away. And then something happened, and then I forgot about it. But I've listened to it like 5 or 6 times since, and every time I pulled it off the shelf, because I thought to myself, oh, I want to go listen to this Isaac Hayes Hot Butter Soul one step, I thought, I really got to do a video on this because this is a fantastic release. This is one of those releases that, a lot of these craft one steps have not that they've not been that good, but they haven't been that good. So they did a lot of jazz reissues at the first couple of titles of titles that Kevin Gray has done and done a better job on. Okay, but these cost $110 versus the $40, for instance, Analog Productions variant of a title. Then they did like a Vince Guaraldi title. They did Black Orpheus. I mean, this is not a record that people are clamoring to spend $110 for, that type of thing. So far, again, titles that weren't that desirable or titles that have been done better elsewhere. But this was a title that, although Mobile Fidelity did it, doesn't hold a candle to this particular pressing. And I'm just looking at the back here. I've got number 666. So maybe my copy has a special deal with the devil. It's kind of like a Leadbelly or Robert Johnson Crossroads thing going on. And it sounds better than everybody else's. Probably not, though. It actually is fantastic. And there's one thing in the industry that there's not enough of, and that is reissues of great soul records. A lot of them were released on really crummy vinyl with really crummy mastering back in the day, but they were recorded really well. And this is one of those examples of a title that was recorded exceptionally well. The original was just mediocre at best, and it really benefits from the all-analog audiophile treatment. I'm not nuts about, again, this is $110, and essentially what you're getting is an analog cut, 33 RPM, in this mediocre box. It's not, we're not setting the world on fire with the craft one-step boxes, but the jacket is fantastic, the disc is fantastic, and musically, fantastic. It's just a killer Isaac Hayes album. Hot Butter Soul. I'm trying to think. I mean, this is probably, for me, his best record. He's got a couple, like 3 or 4 records that are fantastic. By the late 70s and the 80s, I mean, his output for me kind of waned. But this is a great release, and this will blow you away. If you haven't had a chance, if you're going to buy one of these, this is the one you want to buy. The other stuff, you can find better. Okay, I'm going to give you my favorite release of 2024. Now go ahead and pause the video and write your comment below. Do you know what Mike's favorite release of 2024 was? Could you venture a guess? I'm going to give an honorable mention as well. But my favorite release of 2024? You guessed it. That is the Rhino Hi-Fi box set of The Doors. Of course it's going to be my favorite release. It is my favorite band of all time. And it is a box set of all of their Jim Morrison era output, cut at 33 RPM from the original analog master tape by Kevin Gray. Did a standalone release on the video on this, a couple of them. I don't want to rehash it. I'm going to put a link down below of a lot of the videos where I've talked about a lot of these releases in the past. But how can you beat beautiful Stoughton style tip-on jackets, all analog Kevin Gray master tape cuts? You can't beat it. Now, I'm a little sentimental to part of this box set because I actually did sit in on the mastering session for LA Woman. Again, video in the description below. That doesn't color my judgment. A lot of people think it does. But whether I like this box set or not, it's not like that master tape sit-in is, that session's not being taken from me. I mean, I still have the videos in my cell phone. I still have the memories. That's not going anywhere. And I kind of touch on that a little bit when I did the shootout of this versus some of my other previous favorite versions of these records. LA Woman, there it is. Comments have been similar to the Black Sabbath. Well, how can you be impartial when your name is on the dead wax? Your initials are on the dead wax of LA Woman. Well, even in the video I said I prefer most of LA Woman, the Kevin Gray cut, but there are advantages to 45 RPM. And when you get a little deep on LA Woman and Riders on the Storm, that's where the 45 really starts to shine. But go back and watch that video. I elaborate on it more. But again, like I talked about at the beginning of this video, my love of just 33 RPM cuts where I don't have to flip records. I don't have to pay an egregious price. And this box set was really, for now, it's sold out now, but the individual discs are coming. From what I heard, it's going to be 3 in January and then 3 titles somewhat soon thereafter. I don't know the logistics on how they're going to be sold. It might be a brick and mortar title that's available to indie record stores. It might be direct from Rhino. They haven't gotten that far. I'm hoping it's something I can just load up the back shelf with. But as of now, I don't know. But again, my love for 33 was always going to kind of tilt me to this box set unless it just sucked. But it doesn't. It sounds fantastic. And my favorite release of 2024. It was always kind of destined to be my favorite release of 2024 because it is my favorite band done by my favorite mastering engineer, done the way that I would want to do it, right? With the tip-on jackets, the whole, deluxe experience. Cut at 33 and a reasonable price. $40 in 2025 for a real heavy-duty audiophile release is affordable. Just look at some of the other stuff I've showed you. $125, $110, $60, $65 releases. It's, all things considered, affordable. Okay, and the honorable mention for this video, and I'm going to only give it to you as an honorable mention because really it's a modern record. It's sonically the best sounding record out of anything that I've showed you guys. This is Anthony Wilson's Hackensack West. The reason I'm giving it to you as an honorable mention, not putting it on my top 10 list, is because I distribute this record and I don't want people to get, he's making top 10 lists and he's pumping his own records. If you believe me, this is the best sounding record on the list. It's all analog, recorded by Kevin Gray, cut by Kevin Gray, and it's an all tube affair. Tube console, tube everything, tube microphones, tubes. Just a beautiful, fantastic recording, released in 2024. Sonically, it's fantastic. Anthony Wilson, just an absolute fantastic guitar player. Son of Gerald Wilson. He had a Blue Note tone poet you might be familiar with. His father had a huge resume. He has a huge resume. I got this particular copy when I went and saw him in California. The whole band autographed it. Sonically, the best sounding record in the bunch. But, great record. But I decided to just mention it because it is fantastic. It's a wonderful record. Yeah, but I don't want to hear no crap. So I just put it as an honorable mention. But if you want to hear a great sounding, like if you want to hear what you can do with an all analog direct to 2-track in 2024, although that was recorded, I think 2023, go out and buy that record. I got it on the website, theingroove.com. You can get it elsewhere, but buy it on theingroove.com. Listen to that record and you'll be blown away how good a recording can actually sound when done with 60-year-old technology. It's mind-boggling how, in a lot of cases, especially with modern artists, where the technology really hasn't made things better, it has kind of made things worse. It's made things easier because you could just click a few, buttons on your computer and doctor things up, but it's kind of taken something away from the actual art. Okay, guys, that is my list for the top 10 analog releases of 2024. Check us out online at theingroove.com. Until next time.